This is probably the best day of my life. Because it's another one of those days where, I'm doing something and I realize how I got here. All right. So I am important. And everything I do have to say is important. Everything. Everything. Even if it's said wrong, which is why some videos have been deleted recently because they just weren't said right. They were said with too much vulgarity. Um, you know, I cuss and everything, but the point loses. The point is lost when there's too much vulgarity sometimes. Okay, so I was here to show you the healing process. I'm not a reader. I am not. I'm a spiritual person, but it's just in me. It's not like really my daily routine to be doing spiritual activities. I mean, everything, I guess everything I do is spiritual, but it's not like a ritual of anything, any type of sort. Um, and I am coming to a point in my healing, okay, which has been going on for some years. It's taken time. There's been stagnation. There's been all types of things, okay. But I'm coming to a point in my healing where I now understand, and I have now made the link and the connection to when an individual is struggling with being struggling in this trauma loop. I've been in a trauma loop for like 4 years. I'm inching slowly, but I've gotten into this trauma loop, and I've gotten into this rumination because I myself have been unable to like openly and publicly speak on the actions that I've done wrong because I have already been living in an environment of toxic accountability. Okay. So the longer I'm in toxic accountability, the harder it is to be non defensive about the things that you've done wrong. Okay. As long as you're taking um, toxic accountability, you're doing toxic accountability, whatever that is. Okay. If that's, okay. I should. Oh, wait. I have my laptop now, so I can look. I can use the computer. I've been struggling since I don't have the other phone. The other phone dies so fast. Like I'll put it on the charger and then it just sits there and it burns. I don't. Okay, hold on. Let me get to that because it will be helpful and useful for this. I didn't really plan, but there is a writing. Oh, Halo. There is a writing available, but this is the preface and what I realized as I am about to read this to you. Okay. So really quick, going back to toxic accountability and what that looks like. Okay. Oh shit. Are you serious? Why do I have a captcha on my freaking Google? What? Why is there a captcha on my Google search? Is this real? Excuse me. Hi. Is there a right there? Hey, Aaron. Can you get my glasses, please?
Hold on, let me use the bathroom.
Okay. Oh, keep. Okay. Keep going until there's none left. I don't see. I can't see. Look at this. Okay, we're just gonna have to skip this. We're just gonna have to skip this because I think I can do some off the top of my head. All right. So when you're in a cycle of toxic accountability, that could be the go get my glasses. Okay. So, for toxic accountability, there was the punitive, there's the overly accountable, there's avoidant, there's the different types of toxic accountability. The reason that people get defensive is because they are, if they're doing it, they're also receiving it, right? And they're dirty though. Still can't see shit. I'm supposed to have. Oh my god. Okay. All right. I don't know what's going on. Why my laptop is doing that, but when you're experiencing, why did this happen? Why did this happen? It's our systems have detected unusual traffic from your computer network. What the fuck is that? Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry. That was weird. That was very weird. Anyways, I'm trying to get, okay. A harmful approach to holding people accountable that uses punishment and shaming instead of constructive feedback. And it can include a lack of recognition for good behavior, a focus on blame, inconsistent standards, or an excessive micromanaging style of oversight. Okay, this approach creates fear, defensiveness, and a negative environment, hindering personal and team growth. Okay. So there's some people, okay, there's some people that are struggling to take accountability, myself included. No surprise there, right? It's okay. There's no surprise there. But in order to take accountability, you first have to recognize that you're experiencing this, okay? Okay. So I'm gonna read this really quick because this is different from what I originally read for toxic accountability, and it looks really good. So just it gives a better, clear, quick. It focuses on punishing mistakes and uses power to enforce a specific viewpoint, often when the person was unaware of expectations. It involves calling out poor behavior but failing to acknowledge or affirm good behavior. It is characterized by a leader who assigns blame when things go wrong and takes credit for success. This can manifest as micromanagement, where the leader excessively monitors a team because of a lack of trust, or as an unreasonable expectation of single person's ability to handle everything. And it thrives in environments with unclear values, expectations, and makes accountability a moving target. And it can make people scared to speak up, take risks, or engage in difficult conversations for fear of being attacked, shamed, or preventing growth. Okay, so right now, I'm now defeating the creating fear and defensiveness. Okay, because I have now identified that my previous environment was that full and filled with toxic accountability. Okay, as I've moved along and come from this environment, it's now been, because the last person I feel, okay, really quickly, G may or may not have had dealings with my family. Okay, I can't really tell. All right, but something in my deepest of hearts tells me that he may have linked up with them in order to do things. That could be wrong. And he could just be a completely separate entity of that. But I still include him in this past area here because he came in the middle of some of the things that were going on. And now he is now a part of that cell. Okay. So moving away from him is a part of that environment because he came up while I was in that environment. Like, he came into my life while I was in the environment of, being with being with my family and being in communication with my family, living with family members and things like that, I place him as a part of that environment because since I'm in that environment, that's the only type of thing that I'm going to draw in. Okay. So that is what I'm going to say. I have feelings that he may have dealt in the setup at some point, but it's I can hold my what I think happened and what is also possible, which is he may very well never been involved in any of that at all. Okay, so because I have now identified that this was a toxic environment of unhealthy accountability, it made me very afraid to speak the truth on all things. Okay, because there's shaming and blaming going on, and all the finger is currently being, shaming and punish. It points the finger, and I'm trying to point the finger back at some people, but I can't really do that if I don't point it at me. It has to be done by pointing at me first. Then, and I have pointed at myself, but not enough. So let's talk about that really quickly here. And shout out to my therapist. She's real cool. Anyways, let's get here. All right. So we're going to start from the point of high school with just men. There are really no women. This is literally just men. Here's what I've done to the mans. Okay, so the first person is New York. That's gonna be his new nickname. Okay, when I met him, my reputation was already shot, and my house was TP'd. Boys would walk past my house, hollering my name. Um, you know, so when I heard he liked me, I was kind of shocked. uh, Someone else was going to tell him. His best female friend brought him to my driveway, and we talked for a moment, and she interrupted and asked if I was stuck his dick already. So I went in the house, but he still called me later, and he took me on my first date. Okay, this date did involve sex. He never officially dated me. He had a girlfriend. And I was a perpetual side chick. Okay. I would often find out from other people, but I stuck it out. So I chose to be his side chick. So I guess I did hurt these girls. I don't know their names. I didn't even really put that in front. No, I didn't hurt any girls. Yeah, you did. Because the first girlfriend I didn't know anything about. And I had my friend go tell her because they were going to the same school, and they didn't break up. But I thought it was kind of fucked up. You know what I'm saying? He also took another girl to prom and stuff like that. But this is neither here or there. The thing is, I hit him 3 times. I hit him 3 times. The first time, it caused my parents to ban him, but there's not much that they could do. The second time, I don't really remember the details behind it. I just know that I did it. And the third time I very much remember because it resulted in a ticket. Okay. There was a small gathering at his girl best friend's house, and her friends were there and stuff like that. I wasn't really friends with these people. He left and said he would be right back. He did not come right back. And his girl best friend and her friends started picking on me, and I had no way out because he was my ride. So when he got back, I fought him out of frustration and humiliation. And then the neighbors called the police because we were so loud. I fought him. Because he knew them girls didn't like me. And he left for hours, and he was with this other chick. Chances are he was probably sleeping with her too. So that all that. But the issue, I didn't really care that he was sleeping with the girl because I already had a child. I was just upset because we were drinking and stuff like that, and then you leave, and I don't have no way to get home, and these people are harassing me, so I ended up fighting him. And Jeremiah was with me, and Jeremiah was calm. I was underage by a month, and but because Jeremiah was calm, the police were graceful and gave me a disorderly conduct charge instead of an underage drinking charge. So I was not drunk though. Okay, drinks ran out long before this. um, you know what I'm saying? Like I was drinking and we were all drinking at one point. When he got back though, I hadn't been drinking, but there was the evidence of the drinking. So that's why I did not get an underage drinking. They didn't give me any type of sobriety test or anything like that. And I was sober. And I'll tell you how I know in just a moment. um, I said I was drunk because the next morning, New York calls and tells me that his tire was missing. He had been working on his car and his tire wasn't on. So I took it once. I got back to my car. I gave it back when he said he would press charges. And I cannot tell you what year this was. I think it was 2008 though. Jeremiah was walking, but I hadn't moved in with Jeremiah's dad yet. And a lot of my partners overlap. Okay. So we'll move on to Not All Men. Because telling you the story, the reason the timeline, the reason the timeline is so screwed up is because they're always overlapping. They're always like I dated. You'll see. Watch. We're gonna move on to Not All Men. I met Not All Men on the internet on MySpace. The thing that I did to him, this would have been in, it would have been 2005, 2006. Okay. This is very far, but it's important that I tell you this far back. Okay. We were in a disagreement and I pushed him off the sidewalk into the road. Oh, 11:11. Currently at the time, not the video time, just I looked up, it's 11:11. Okay. I pushed him off the sidewalk into the road. My cousin witnessed this and really got on me about it. Okay. In fact, it's the cousin that I just recently had a dream about where I said that she looked extremely thin. Okay. So my cousin witnessed it and really got on me about it. Okay. It is still true that he didn't pour into me at all. But I wanted to break up. He kept calling. So I ended up sleeping with New York and proudly admitting it. Okay. Cheating, deception. I mean, I think I would assume that if I cheated, I would have to deceive in order to get to be with him in the first place. So I did deceive here. Okay. I wanted to break up, but he kept calling. So I ended up sleeping with New York, proudly admitting it. He still wouldn't give up. So I started dating Jeremiah's dad. And I also met him on MySpace. Now All Men pulls up on me at work with the help of my best friend at the time to see Jeremiah's dad picking me up from work. He still persisted that we be friends, so I had them meet, and that kind of calmed him down. So Jeremiah's dad, and that's all for now. That's all for now, because remember, these things, they come back. So Jeremiah's dad, whenever he speaks on his worst experience with me, it starts with one particular night that he felt traumatized. We spent a lot of time together and I was feeling comfortable, and he was getting tired and he wanted to leave. We were parked outside of his house, but I began to cry and beg him not to leave. I didn't want to go home. It always bothers me that he looks at that first instance of my instability as traumatizing, because I think it was a compliment that I felt vulnerable enough to want to be around him like that. Um, you know, but I guess he was looking for some restraint, and maybe that was abusive. I made the mistake of adding New York to the mix. Okay, New York and Jeremiah's dad became friends. It's very interesting. Okay, New York became friends with the majority of my exes at some point. He and Not All Men were, I think they were like, they had something that they were on after the fact, and he would hang out with New York sometimes. They became friends and would take my car and do ratchet things together while I was at work, okay? Um and at one point that work was a strip club. Okay, they picked me up an hour late one day and I cussed out New York because he was the driver. I called him nigga, so this is verbal abuse. And then Jeremiah's white ass daddy had the audacity to mock me and oh nigga, he was, and I smacked him. He also told me that New York told him I was crazy and he didn't want to deal with me anymore. But our dumbasses have been caught all over the city sleeping together in my car. The police had already knew us by name. Um, we actually at one point were in agreement that we wanted a child. Okay, up until this point, we were unsuccessful. And so we both agreed we were not going to keep trying. I scheduled an appointment for birth control, but our method in the meantime was not safe. So, throughout our relationship, we both had this idea that if I just wipe or go to the bathroom, we would be okay. Okay. And I've mentioned this before. I did not have the proper sexual education. So we were bouncing ideas off each other. It had worked up until that point. So we kept doing it. This is trial and error. See, when people are not given the appropriate information, they make stupid ass fucking mistakes. And this is very stupid. And I genuinely wanted to have a family. Okay. I genuinely wanted to have a family, but like I said, we were doing this. It was working, so we kept doing it. Okay. Um, and so I had made this appointment for birth control and found out I was pregnant. That is how I got pregnant with Jeremiah. Okay. He likes to put all that blame on me, but he was a willing participant. We were both willing participants. And then when he decided, because I smacked him, when I smacked him is when he decided he did not want to see me anymore. But we had already, that was our entire method the entire time we were together. So, we decided we didn't want to have a child, and we decided that we did not want to be together, and I found out I was pregnant. During this time, I was seeing the older man. I told him the child was his, knowing it fully wasn't. Okay, fully what there wasn't any possibility at all. So deception, abusive. Okay, despite us splitting up. Oh wait, I already read that part. Sorry. You know, I did this because my parents had kicked me out, and I stayed with him for a few months, but I caught him with someone else, so I left. Okay, I see my wrongdoing. Okay, I see my wrongdoing, but I just need to mention that I also see how my wrongdoing was his karma. Like, I'm not saying I'm walking around. I now say I'm walking karma, okay? Because I understand my placements. I understand things, but it wasn't back then. I wasn't walking around being like, "Yeah, I'm walking karma, motherfucker." Like, I was just living my life in survival mode, a traumatized teenager, because I was literally a teenager when this was happening. Okay? And um but I still see it, because he actually had told me that he was divorced because he had chronically cheated on his wife. And so I believe I was brought into his life at the time to bring him some disappointment. Um, but again, I'm very sorry, and I did apologize to him for this. I did apologize. I told him the truth. Way too late, obviously, but I did tell him the truth, and I did own up to it. Um, and at the time, he did not know that I was not telling the truth, and he was choosing to cheat on me. So, you know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. Also during this time, that older man, he entrusted me to purchase some clothes for his nephew who was getting out of jail. I took the money and I lied about it. I did that too. I had sex with someone and did not tell my Jeremiah's dad, and he got chlamydia. Okay. Once Jeremiah's dad and I moved in together. Now, this is very important though. The reason that this is important is because I'm telling you all the stuff I did, right? I'm about to tell you all the stuff I did. And then I want you to like we'll get there. Hold on. Once Jeremiah's dad and I moved in together at his mom's house, I experienced a lot of abuse, and I've detailed a lot of that, and I do not change my stance on it. Okay? Anything I did to Jeremiah's dad during that time was reactive abuse because I was doing like everything he asked me to do. Okay? So this only made emotional dysregulation increase. Okay? So I look more unstable, but it's because I'm still with an abuser. But um I ended up lying. Okay? Again. Here's what happened. I actually made a video about this. It was called The Empire State of Mind. I deleted it because I didn't like how vulgar I was speaking because the video went into other details about other things and I just getting out of hand. So let's clean it up, okay? I have a tendency to use my partners. If I'm with somebody, I have a tendency to use their laptop. This is like my second laptop in my whole life. So the laptop is the death of every relationship. I'm never snooping. I'm not a snooper. I don't do that. It's always just presented to me, and here's how it happened. I went to go download something, and when I went to the downloads, it was an Apple. So Apple, when you hit their downloads, it shows you like all the most recent downloads, including yours. And if it's an image, it's going to show the image, not a name. Like Windows doesn't do that. If I go to documents right now or I go to downloads right now, it's just going to show me the name of it, and you may be able to see like something really small. But this one was so clear. So I saw that he had been exchanging naked pictures with this chick through his downloads. And so he claims he went to see her, but he didn't sleep with her. And I do not believe him. To this day, I still do not believe him because when I sat and I agreed to let him sleep with 20 people before he decided to be with me, sounds crazy, right? Sounds disgusting, right? But we were really young. I mean, we're like 20 years old. I think that there are things to be had and experienced. And I didn't think that I was doing anything wrong because we were young and we were just planning on raising our child. So you go ahead and do that. But the problem was that he wasn't giving me any attention when he was doing that. That was some years later. And he had already slept with 20 people. Like he revealed to me later that he had already slept with 20 people. So when he sits here and he said he didn't sleep with this girl, looking back on it now, I was like, oh, I don't believe you. But he said he didn't sleep with her. I didn't believe him. And I actually lied in order to leave and go travel to see New York, in New York, because at this point he now lives in New York. Okay. I lied about my whereabouts in order to get there. Okay. New York was not hospitable at all, by the way. But it's not a proud moment. I came home and I told the truth. Jeremiah's dad actually attempted to commit suicide over it. And we were not allowed to listen to Jay-Z and Alicia Keys' song Empire State of Mind. Okay. My time in the house ended with a final fight where he received a scar from me throwing a ceramic bowl. He started this fight. The entire thing about the fight was about parenting time. He had 4 days, or I'm sorry, I had 4 days a week. He had 3 days a week. Like we were supposed to do on off, like so I could get some sleep. But he was not doing his part of the duty, so it started a disagreement. And then he pushed me down, and when he pushed me down, I fell onto Jeremiah. So upon getting up, I picked up the ceramic dog bowl and threw it at him. So that is physical violence. I would still classify it as reactive abuse, but we're just gonna speak on all of the incidents and where I have done it. Okay, so then um, we had a very long break. Okay, um, I moved out of that house. We do end up getting back together though. But my father had moved Jeremiah and I into a 1 bedroom apartment that required me to go into his room to use the bathroom. I was seeing different people here, okay, like not in the house, but I was seeing other people. I saw a dude. I know his name, but I'm not gonna say it. And at this time, I do not know that I have herpes or anything. So um, I don't think it would really matter if I knew his name or not. And then there was this other guy that I was seeing that I met on like a specifically for sexual encounters. It wasn't like a dating website. It was like one of them sites that's specifically for sex. But I had a very weird conversation with a man who kept telling me that I looked like his daughter and he really wanted to sleep with me. So I got off that website. Um, and within weeks of that conversation is when I was laying on my air mattress in the house. My sister and Jeremiah were not present. And so my father asked if I wanted to come to his room. Okay. And I just pretended to be asleep. Just not too long before that, I had had an abortion with Jeremiah's dad, and I was devastated. It was probably about 2 months before that, and I had called Jeremiah's dad during this time. I had been drinking. Okay, he had gotten me into the or not TPAs, IPAs. He got me into I keep trying to say because the name of the beer is called Torpedo. The Torpedo IPA was very strong, and I was a lightweight. I drank like two of those, and I was, I was, I was emotional. I could feel. What I had said is that um, I told him how my dad was acting. I told him my dad was acting weird. I feel like he's attracted to me. Um, you know, I had really like opened up to him about that, and not even oh, side note here. Once you feel this perverted energy, you cannot unfeel it. It is very distinct. That's why one person can tell me I smell good and it's harmless, and another one can tell me I smell good and it's not harmless. Okay. Because there's an energy that is being presented. You can feel that energy. That energy stalks. You know what I mean? Like it has a. I'll never. I have spoken in therapy about the visceral reaction I have to this type of energy because it's thick. But anyway, within weeks of this incident, I'm kicked out of the home. I've heard other family members say it was because I was smoking weed, but no reason was provided to me because my father was making this a subliminal message of his expectations. He wasn't going to outright say it because I didn't sleep with him. But giving me a reason other than that wouldn't have made it clear what his expectations were of me. And I ended up with Jeremiah's dad again. Okay. So to if that was sounded really complicated, what I'm saying is my dad just told me I had to leave. He said, you need to be out by X date. I was like, why? He's like, you just need to be out by X date. Okay. He never gave me a specific reason as to why he kicked me out. But other people within the family have an idea of what they think it is because he told them, but he never specifically told me. And that's because he can't blur the lines. You can't blur the line. If you're trying to coerce someone into doing something for you, or you're trying to teach them that you do not like what they are doing, um, I know, okay, the next time he's going to let me live with him again. Okay, trust me and believe he's gonna let me live with him again, but he's trying to tell me what the stipulations are for living with him, what it is he's looking for. And he already told me, because whoever that man was on that I'm pretty sure that was him being a weirdo. I mean, he has there. Never mind. Anyways, that's really not some of these things I'm telling you just so you know what's going on during this time, not to it's not to talk about like my behavior or their behavior really, but I wanted to elaborate on that so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Anyways, so I'm with Jeremiah's dad. I was enrolled in Franklin University at the time, but I had to drop out. The reason I lived with Jeremiah's dad is because I couldn't get approved for an apartment. Okay, I had just been evicted. Uh, the reason I moved back in with my dad was because I had gotten evicted. No, wait. Where are we at? What year is this? This is 2011. So 2008 is when I got evicted from Ashley Village. Then I went into the shelter and I got an apartment at I don't remember the name of the apartments, but it was on Woodrow. It was on the south end. I was living there, but then that's when I moved into Jeremiah's dad asked me to live with him the first time. Okay, the first time he wanted me to live with him and his mom because he didn't like me living off of Woodrow. So I made the choice that's missing out of here, but I'm glad that I try to back it up. Like, where are we at? What year are we in? I made the choice to leave a perfectly good home, but not really. There was roaches. Okay, it was subsidized just like this is. And what I ended up doing was I subleased it for like 3 months, and then I got evicted because I got a job, and I didn't report the job. Um, but the person that was living there, there was a person living there in my place, so that is fraud. I lost that apartment. Like, I kept it and I did that because I thought that and I should have just stayed there. I should have never went to his home, but I felt the thing is I earned that. Like, I was on good behavior, I was doing stuff, and I earned the opportunity to be a family with my son and his dad. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to take that risk. I wanted to take that opportunity, um, to be a family, but it was a poor choice. Okay, so that poor choice, once I left his house is when I ended up back with my dad in that little ass fucking apartment, and then ended up back with this boy. Um, and I hit him. I had two jobs, but all my money was going to bills and his vices. I spent like all my money on his drugs, his alcohol, and his pills. Pills are expensive, bro. And I wasn't doing pills at the time, but I was drinking. Okay. Um, and when I drink, I'm not a drunk. Like, I don't get like super drunk, but it's definitely, more often than not. Abuse. Again. But I like to bring up some of these particular ones because I understand that I ruin them for life. Um, One particular time, I hit him in the back with a trophy, and he had long-term problems from that injury. Okay. However, again, this fight started when he spit in my face, smacked me in the face, and then pulled my wig off. So he actually he stood outside and he told me he called the police, and we spoke for a while. We sat there and he's like, I didn't call the police, let's just go back in the house. So, like, all right. um we ended up getting a job together.
at Spirit Halloween. And I actually worked at Spirit Halloween several times, so I was his reference in order for him to get this job. This was like my third time working for Spirit. Um, he wanted me to move out all of a sudden. Okay, so I moved out. And it's because he wanted to sleep with this girl. But I need to also mention that I also lied during this time. Okay. Um, I lied during this time. I slept with a man and I didn't sleep with him. I actually brought this up before, where he took me out and then he drove me out to this park and did whatever and then drove me to Speedway and had me clean myself up with fucking absorbent, like the absorbent stuff that has that they use at the fucking gas station. So when I went home, I did not tell him about that. I did tell him about it eventually, but I didn't tell him about that. But it didn't matter because he was willing to kick me out so he could sleep with someone too. So that like whatever. Um, he acted like he cared, but ultimately, this entire time he was sleeping with people, like the entire time. But he would like. I didn't like that he would call me a whore because we're doing the same thing. Why am I a whore and you're not? That's a double standard. And it wasn't that situation. That wasn't when I gave him chlamydia. I was in agreement and I did it. But when this incident happened, I was not in agreement. It was an assault. So, like I said, no. I definitely said no. And that guy actually stalked me for a little bit. He actually came to the house that I was living in with Kyle, and I never gave him my address or anything. And then he just kind of disappeared, but he didn't because he was an African. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. Your community, the African community, I find thrives on gang stalking. So he didn't ever really disappear. I believe like some of the African men that I met know this man. I don't remember his name, but I bet they know him. And when they saw me, they knew who I was and behaved with me a particular way as a result. Anyway, so he kicked me out so he could sleep with someone, and I had lied to him anyway, so it doesn't really matter. She was on board until last minute. I asked my sister to move in with me with a coworker. A coworker was going to sublease an apartment, so I asked my sister to move in with me and sublease this apartment with me because I was not in the position to pay for it by myself. Um, she was on board until last minute, choosing her friend instead of me. And excuse me, she was going to move in anyway. Um, but Jeremiah's grandfather was always the person that was going to be co-signing on that lease. So her name was never going to be in there. Um, Eventually, Jeremiah's dad moves in. And this is when I realized that he was sleeping with the girl who had herpes. Oh, we gotta rewind. He did kick me out, but he still invited me to a New Year's party. Okay. The New Year's Eve party is literally the day that I found out I had herpes. And there was this smart ass fucking girl in there. Okay. So I have heard a girl. This girl, I kissed her before she left. So then, he did move into my apartment. That's when I realized that he was sleeping with a girl who had herpes, but he denied that until 2020. Okay, he left with Jeremiah, and that's when I killed the dog. Um, Eventually, my sister did need to move in with me because I went into the psych ward and all that stuff. And No, oh, that's not actually why she moved in with me. You know why she moved in with me? Because everything fell apart with her friend. The thing is, like, if she was living in my house with me at the time, I wouldn't have allowed Jeremiah's dad to move in there, even with his grandfather being on the thing. Because, like, that wouldn't have been appropriate for her to be around him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had a very different lifestyle. I would have never allowed, like, what he does around her. And it's kind of weird because I allowed it around my son, but it's his dad. You know what I'm saying? That's his dad. This is my sister who has not been exposed to anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't allow that. So if she would have moved in with me, I wouldn't have. He wouldn't have moved in there. He kind of just forced himself in there. He's like, "Oh, my grandfather paid for this anyway." He doesn't pay for it. His name is just on it. But okay. Um, she when she moved in, I was in like a really bad financial situation. Okay, and she was kept saying, "This is why I didn't want to move in with you." See, that's that shit though. Because here's how that situation came to be. When she did not move in with me, um, I had to pay all of the bills by myself. And I just said I didn't have the resources for that. I literally just got a car, and I really think that's the reason why Jeremiah's dad kicked me out, because I had just bought a car and making payments on it. But I think he was upset and he just wanted to like cripple me a little bit, so he kicked me out. And um, so I had like this really high car payment that I didn't know that it wasn't supposed to be that high. All these things that come with the lack of education. Education is still my responsibility, but just showing you the causation. I didn't have the education. I made a poor decision based off that lack of education. So I had this high ass car payment and I could not pay all these bills by myself. So, in between the time of trying to pay the bills by myself, I started getting payday loans, okay? And it got out of hand. It got out of hand first off because I had watched my dad for years go back and forth from all he went to every single type of payday loan there was. So I never really saw the repercussions of what he was doing. I just knew that he could do it. And then I quickly figured out why he was doing that. Okay, because I didn't realize how high that interest rate is on that shit. So I went and I got another one to pay the other one off, right? But then I got another one to pay the other one off. Oh wait, then there's a disaster and I need to get my car fixed, so I get another one, and now so I got a second job to try to pay this stuff off, but it did not go well. And so then that's when Jeremiah's grandfather assisted me in getting that handled. And he went downstairs. He took my check, my tax check, and that's how I paid him back. I paid him back for that. So anyway, and I still had tax check left over, and I paid some rent up. But then my sister comes in and she's like, "You're irresponsible." You know what I'm saying? You don't know how to manage your bills. Um, I didn't, and neither did she though. And we fought about that a lot, and that's when my dad came and took us back into his house. Okay. So, and that's before he took us in. So before he took us into his house, and before my sister moved in, I had met Natanya's dad, and as I have stated, he did assault me on our first date. Okay. That is why I did not reveal my STD status to him immediately, because he was literally the very first person that I ever went on a date with, and it was like 4 months into the diagnosis. So even if he had done things correctly, I cannot be, I can admit that I probably still wouldn't have disclosed. But the added effect is the fact that he did in fact assault me. So He had told me that I didn't need to be ashamed about that, and so I kept dealing with him. And then I only continued with him as long as I did because he said that he wanted a relationship, but eventually he came and told me that he did not want a relationship. Um, I then slept with a coworker, and I told him I had herpes after the fact, and he contracted it. I went back to Natanya's dad, not speaking on this incident, and this is the truth. I revealed in those journals entries in 2014. Okay, 2013 summer, I had a lot going on. Okay, so this would have been 2012, and now we're moving into 2013. My sister has since moved in with me. My dad has now moved us into an apartment with all three of us, my dad, my sister, and me. Okay, so uh, we're now in 2013, the summer. Okay, I moved in with my dad. Last place I want to be is there, so I'm out often. I also did a lot of chatting on Craigslist. I met one. Okay, it was on my birthday, 2013. I did not say I had herpes. The rest of them were just chatting. Then the incident with Green happened. Okay, Green knew of my status, but none of those men knew. So I do not take responsibility with that because I didn't consent to anything. I was sold to someone and involved in the sale, but I was incapacitated before I could talk. And the man was much older. He was like 60. So I really did have the intention of speaking to him because it's like he's old. Like I know if I tell him, he'll be understanding and he's not going to be a dick. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I thought, right? So of course though I was unconscious and did not get a chance to tell him, but I did go back to him a few days later to tell him about it and also to ask him like details about it, but he didn't give me any shit. He actually he started getting mad, not at me but at Green, because Green is his family, and like I guess the family that rapes together stays together, because he was more mad at his cousin about it than he was about with me. What the fuck? That shit was weird. Okay. So then I meet a young man. He's very young. I did not know he was very young. He's told me he was 21, and I had no reason not to believe him. The thing is, he looked really young in the face, but he would go into liquor stores. He would go get liquor. He would get beer. He had no problem with getting anything, cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? He got everything that he wanted, and he could have had a fake ID, and I just didn't know about it. But I had no reason not to believe him. I found out he was 19. His mom told me he was 19. I never told this boy that I had herpes. Um, Also, during this summer, and this is probably one of the most important details that was left out and very, very important. During this summer, I was sleeping with Green. I was sleeping with this young man here. And I slept with someone else. Okay, I don't count those men that drugged me. I don't count them because the men that were there when I woke up were not the men. There was only two men in the house when I went to sleep. It was Green and his person. And I didn't go to sleep. I passed out. I literally passed out. I sat down and I don't remember anything else. Um, but when I woke up, there was four men. So I don't even know their names. You know what I'm saying? But there was another dude, and I actually got trick from him. Okay, so though I'm spending this time though dealing with them, and I stopped taking birth control about a year prior to that, and I was using a tracker. Now, nobody was asking me if I was taking birth control or anything. I had stopped taking birth control like a year before because I was getting fat. It's just that simple. I was getting fat. I couldn't fit my clothes. And I had briefly stopped having sex. So I stopped taking my birth control. Um, and I was doing a period tracker and just avoiding sex during the ovulation times. Like right now on my period tracker, it says it's ovulation time, right? Um, Back then, if you had enough periods logged, it could give you kind of like a trajectory of what that would look like in the future. It's still, I think it still does that, but I don't really look at it now because I'm not really having sex. But I started playing with that and just like avoiding sex during those times. Again, trial and error. I went like 6 months doing this shit and I was fine. I didn't have sex during the ovulation period. I'm good. Okay. No, no, I'm not. I'm not good. And again, nobody was asking me if I was on birth control or anything like that. Everyone was doing whatever method they wanted to. The other dude is also involved in this time frame, and he was using condoms. This is the guy that had a girlfriend. He is also involved in this time frame. So he was using condoms, but everybody else, we were just being very reckless. Okay. So when I get to, I had a really bad experience at the club with someone. Okay. He didn't do anything like he didn't assault me or anything like that. He was just a jerk. We had such wonderful conversations. He was actually a neighbor of that young man, the 19-year-old. Um, he and I crossed paths a lot because all these men are friends. All of them are friends except for Natania's dad. Natania's dad's not included in this, but it's like Green, and all these different men. Uh, the one, he's a neighbor, but he's not friends with them. I just so happened to meet him in front of a corner store or something, and he did know this other guy. This guy, I had told him that I had it, and I actually really liked him, and I felt like he had the energy. I felt like he had the energy of somebody who would be accepting of that. So I definitely told him, oh, okay. So excuse me. Like I was saying, majority of these men knew each other somehow. They were associated somehow. And this guy, I thought that he would be like really cool because we had so many like really deep conversations. And for a hot second, especially because it's very rocky. I'm now stuck in a house with my dad again. I had just had like a major assault happen, or possibly I was passed out the entire time. I'll never know what happened to me. I just know that there's additional men in the house that were not there before. Um, so we had great conversation, but then one day he asked to go out with me, and we go out to the club, and everybody's at the club, and he just treated me so terrible, you know. Talking to people in front of me, and wouldn't dance with me, didn't buy me anything to drink. Like he had like acted like he didn't even know who I was, but he asked me to be there. So this guy actually ended up getting convicted of a double homicide years later. Just want to throw that in there because it really shows like the darkest places that I was at, and like the type of people that I was around. Um, so There was no intention to get pregnant. That whole summer, I was an object. I was having less than savory experiences, and I just wanted to come. Okay. So to this day, um, I've even had conversations with my most recent partner about this. Okay. It is a very sensitive topic for me. Um, and I did not, and still I have displayed recently that I still have not been able to gain agency of my body and demand condoms, have the assertion to my boundaries. Like, I've still displayed that my sexual boundaries I am not good with. That is my own personal problem, but this is how I solved that problem in 2013. Okay. Um, I used the period tracker, and I would just avoid having sex during those times. But with Keith specifically asked me if I was on birth control, and I said yes. Okay. So I lied because I was using this tracker, and up until this point, it had worked. I think I just said his name, but it's okay. Um, I keep missing. There's so many words on this screen. I keep missing my place. I need something to like hold my place. Okay. So I need. He didn't even like think twice. He immediately came and he said he did it. He said, "I don't trust birth control." This is literally how Natanya was conceived. Okay. I hadn't lied to anyone else about that. Again, I have to mention that. I did not lie to anybody else about being on birth control. I was just trial and error. There are so many things that I did not know about sex, okay? About this fucking app. You know, other people were doing it, and I was just, you know, you see other people do it. It's trial and error. I didn't know, how ovulation works. I didn't know that sperm stays in the body for 7 days. I didn't know any of the shit. You know what I'm saying? So, excuse me, I'm wrong here, okay? But it does not erase the years of psychological and sexual torment I experienced, okay? And I am certain that he uses my truth to get away with it, okay? Because I told him the truth. I told him the truth about it. He knows the truth about it. I didn't tell you the truth about it. And because I told him the truth about it, what you're going to find is that I have very similar trends, okay, of how I do things. I do enact toxic accountability, in which I am over accountable and I make sure to take care of my child because this man didn't ask for a child. And there was actually an email where when I was pregnant, I had expressed to him that I was the one that made the choice to have this child because at some point I did think that I wanted to get an abortion. Okay, because I found out I was pregnant. Remember, I found out I was pregnant the day I lost custody of Jeremiah. My first instinct was to get an abortion. I changed my mind. I'm allowed to do that. Okay. Um, I'm allowed to do that. I changed my mind. And because I changed my mind, he felt that he was being trapped. But I had given him the opportunity when I was pregnant. I said, I was looking into things like signing away your rights. If you truly don't want a child, I am the person that made this choice to have this child. I will raise this child by myself. I will, give you the opportunity if you'd like to just sign your rights away. And maybe when she's older or when you're ready, you can come back. He didn't want to do that. Okay, that's fine. All right. Then, I went for some years not filing child support. And actually, you see in my journal that I'm speaking on the fact that I didn't want to file child support, but he himself was already doing vindictive things to get back at me when we both made a conscious choice to have unprotected sex. Whether I said I was on birth control or not, he still had a responsibility to himself. These are these moments in which, because I wasn't, it's about the intention, okay? When people see people as just bad, and their actions as bad, they're unable to, give that grace. I didn't have any education on sex. I didn't do that to be manipulative to you. Lying in itself is manipulative, but the intention behind the manipulation was just to have enjoyable sex. It was never to have a child, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. So, it does not mean, okay, lying is never right. We're just talking about causation, by the way. We have to remember that when I speak on causation. I am not giving excuses. There is no excuse, okay? And like I said, up until then, it had went all well, okay? It had went well. I went through desperate measures for sexual reciprocation. So like when my mom would say things to me about not being ready for a parent, and I always tell her, like, this was an unplanned pregnancy. I wasn't ready to be a parent. I'm smoking cigarettes while pregnant. No, I'm not ready to be a parent. But it goes to show my lack of knowledge, repeatedly, my lack of knowledge led me to poor choices. Now, I keep losing my fucking spot, right? I took a toxic accountability. I didn't file child support immediately because I wanted to show him that I was not out to ruin his life, okay? But I was the only one being held responsible, okay? I filed child support because I lost my apartment as a result of not doing so. I'm saying that because people, I know for a fact how he set it up. We're about to show you the setup. How he set it up, it looks like I filed child support because I was mad about his girlfriend. But we can show you how. Because we already have the journals of me talking about I'm going to file child support eventually. But he would always be like, this is the child that you wanted because I've done this, but it's not the child that I wanted. It's the child I chose to keep, because once the child is conceived, no answer is the right answer. Once the child is conceived, abortion is not the answer. Taking care of the child when you don't have the means is not the answer. Giving them up for adoption is not the answer. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to show him that I was not trying to ruin his life, but in the process, he made everything so fucking hard. Because he wanted it that way. He wanted it to be hard because he actually was the person that convinced me to get off birth control in the first place, but he did it covertly. He had his friends repeatedly tell me that I was getting fat. Remember I said I stopped taking birth control? He repeatedly had his friends tell me that I was getting fat. And he would always tell me, like, I can't stand fat people. I hate fat people. He's trying to get me on the treadmill, so I stopped taking birth control a whole year before. He knew what he was doing. Okay? So, to clarify, this man did rape me on the first date, okay? I did not know, so I continued a relationship with him, and then I committed reproductive abuse by lying about being on birth control. So this resulted in nearly a year of forced oral sex, okay? After I had Natanya, this is what I'm talking about in the 2014 journals.
I would have sex with him if he would just love me. You know what I'm saying? I did not do all this so that he would love me, but why do you keep making, I can't even leave your house? Like, he literally would not let me leave the house until I gave him oral sex. This man was assaulting me. Okay? So I did not know. So I continued a relationship with him, and it resulted in nearly a year of forced oral sex. Um, Coming back to 2013 was with the man with the girlfriend. I saw him several times during my pregnancy and once after I had Natanya. And I looked at her and decided never to consciously sleep with someone else's person again. Okay. He hit me up a few times and I would say stuff like, I'm not a side chick, respect your chick. And he would just try to pay me off or like offer to take me out on a date or buy me something. I really couldn't just bring myself to just tell him that I had it. And I didn't sleep with him again, but I did run into him in 2020. And the reader who mentioned him, I responded because he had spots on his hands at the time, as you said. And he's the only person that directly asked me if I had herpes, and I blatantly lied. The rest are all omissions, instances of assault and not being given the opportunity, or just being reckless. And I do still go on to sleep with somebody else's man, by the way, on purpose. And we'll get to that. So, after those journal entries, I had a short time of celibacy. But while I was in the shelter, after leaving my father's house, I got a job where I met Carl Carlton. And I brought Carl Carlton up before. He was brought up in the, it's a Lionsgate reading. Something about a lion doesn't have to roar or something. Okay. He just got divorced. I gave him head a few times after work, and we had sex once. And he told me he loved me. And I really actually liked him too. Though he was goofy looking and a drunk. But I didn't like how I felt because he was a drunk. And when he was drunk when he said it. And he had a very avoidant personality. I also obviously would have to tell him that I have herpes. I never told him I had herpes, and I quit my job and I ghosted him. That one's actually almost bringing me to tears because I really like Carl too. All right. This is a long ass fucking video. And it's funny because I don't see anybody on here today, which is fine. Maybe somebody will watch this later, but I noticed usually if nobody watched while it was on, most of the time people won't, and that's unfortunate because this is an important video. Excuse me. Where was my spot? All right. So at this point, this is going on into 2016. Natanya's dad offered to reconcile and have sex. Okay. And I was genuinely excited because all the gurus say if you have a certain way, the person mistreating you will come back. Like if you act a certain way, if you behave a certain way, set your boundaries and all this stuff, and they'll come back. So that's what I did. And so I thought that he was coming back to reconcile with me. And I thought we were about to work shit out. I went to his house, we drank only 4 shots, okay? But somehow I don't remember anything. I woke up in my piss and Natty walking around the room. I was also sick for a few days. I threw up so bad that I threw up into my phone and broke my phone, okay? That's how bad. And that's 4 shots. So that's not normal. Something happened here. DMT is what I think happened. But we won't get into it, and I won't tell you how I know that. But yeah, I will soon. I moved into my apartment, and he and I had sex a few more times, but it was always like unpredictable, and there was still no talk of relationship. And sometimes like I would ask him to drink. Like I'd be like, hey, you want to drink? And that would get him to come over sometimes. Sometimes he would already be drunk when he got here. And we had gotten into a fight and a disagreement because he was mad that I was smoking weed, but I found out that he was doing shrooms. It's like, dude, you're doing shrooms, but I'm fucking just smoking weed. Like, fuck. Anyway, so I try to call him over with alcohol sometimes, and this is when I was getting like a little more into alcohol again, because there was like during 2011 I drank a lot, but then 2012 it settled down. 2013 it obviously settled down because I was pregnant at some point. And no, 2013 is when I was doing cocaine with it was being put in my weed, and then I was doing it with green. So, but then I got pregnant and everything, so all of that had slowed down. But 2016 is when I kind of like picked up on drinking again, because I was drinking with him, and then I had a few times when I drank by myself. Then, okay, I went to go use his laptop. He told me I could use the laptop. This is very important, okay? This is very important. I don't snoop. I was given they told me I could use it. When I get on, it's just like this. It's just like this. It's up. His, not all men. When I caught him lying about how much money he had, it was up already. I didn't like go into, let me check. No, it was already up. So this happened the same way. I open up the laptop and his email is up with the girl that he was dealing with. So I read it. I saw it. It's very clear that he's dealing with her. So, I was very upset, and I told him I will contact her and I have her email. Okay. I did not specifically say I would ruin his relationship. And for anyone who thought I would, him fucking me while with her would have been him ruining the relationship, not me, okay? Coming to her woman to woman. All I wanted to do was address it and be like, hey, did you know that he's sleeping with me and I have herpes? Did you know that? That's what I wanted to do. I did not do that. I learned like a really long time ago, I've never been a woman to like fight over a man. The only time where that really worked, I never worked. With New York, I had my friend tell his girlfriend they didn't break up. So I learned like a long time ago that, that was when I was a teenager. So by the time now here, I'm like 26 years old, 26, 27. I said it, and it was more of a for him. Because now he's not going to keep trying to, if he really wanted to keep her, which apparently it looked like he did, right? If he really wanted to keep her, then all this stuff between me and you is going to stop, and it's going to stop very easily. There will be no more tricking me into having sex, and the whole time you had a girl. You know what I'm saying? So that's what was behind that. It wasn't me trying to ruin his life or his relationship. And I literally just told him I was going to email her. I did not have her email address. To this day, I still don't have her fucking email address. I or her phone number. I don't have anything. I never had it. It was a bluff. It was a bluff, but I said it. Okay? And that was my way of drawing the boundaries, because you're not about to be fucking me and you're with somebody else. Just go be with them. I'm fine with that. So, the problem is he started doing some stuff, right? He stopped picking up Natanya on his days at daycare. That's the first thing that he did. And I it's hold on, I need to make sure I'm not skipping anything, because I keep missing my spot and then I'm looking. Yeah. Yep. He changed the time he gets Natanya. So we argued about that. Then he stopped picking Natanya up from daycare on his days. Okay. So he didn't even warn me. They called me one day after close and she was still there. This is when Not All Men moved in. Okay. And her dad began saying he was only going to watch her if I had to work. So I told him one day that I was working so I could go to Chicago with a coworker. Okay. Now I know that coworker was likely involved with him. He showed up at my job. Okay. I wasn't there. So he called me and said I owed 2 favors if I ever wanted him to watch Natanya again. So I did the favors. Oral sex. Okay. Do me a favor. If he's ever showed this dialogue to anyone, he was actually asking for oral sex. That's why I was so adamant that I wasn't going to do it. I could cook you some chicken, but I'm not giving you oral sex. I'm not giving you head, bro. So now I'm having issues with Not All Men. Okay. I became restrictive with sex, and we had a physical fight when he recognizes my depression. Okay. And Natanya recorded that video. Okay. When I finally kick him out of the house, we have another physical fight. So in total, I was physical with him 3 times. I've never gotten in a physical fight with any woman outside of people within my family. My issues have only been with men. I've been highly reactive with men. And the reason that argument happened is he had made like some kind of slick comment when I told him that I had almost got evicted. Like, you don't care about my family, man? Like, all this because I wouldn't fuck you? Disgusting. Excuse me. And he was kicked out because he wasn't paying rent. He stopped paying rent when I stopped having sex. And I only stopped having sex because I was forced to give head twice in order to get my daughter to be watched. Okay? So where am I at? God, there's so much. I think am I in the right spot? I think I might have scrolled a little bit because I was looking for something. Go back up. This is hard. There's just so much, you know. Okay, so in 2017, I asked for a ride to the laundromat when Natanya's dad picks her up. He asked if I wanted to go to his house. Okay, very important. I declined because he literally would not let me leave until I gave him head. That was every time I was there since I had Natanya. Like, if I went to his house, I was not leaving unless I gave him head, honey. Okay? Even if we were just there with the child, that's what made me separate. Like, I forced him to take her by himself because every time I would go there, that's what he would do. And at first I found it to be flattering. Then I found it to be disgusting. Then
having more understanding of it and knowing that this is actually assault. This is actually like a form of kidnapping. You know what I'm saying? Or and being embarrassed about it and be like, oh, everything's fine. It was not fine. It was not. But I declined to go to his house to do laundry. I already know you got a girl. I already know you do not like me. You are not going to get me again, okay? He then said he was going to drop off Natanya earlier, okay? And this caused a fight, to which he took me back home and he told me he wasn't giving me rides anymore. And I told him he can't see her until we have a set schedule. That was a 3-month process before mediation. Now, mediation ordered a minimum of $50 a month, and that is what he paid. No more, no less, okay? We had an agreement of Tuesdays and Saturdays, and if the parents were unable to agree to those days, agree to any other days, these were the days. So let's say he says, hey, I need to cancel Tuesday, I'll get her on Thursday, and I say, no, I need Thursday. It's supposed to revert back to Tuesday, okay? But somehow he got me, we argued so fucking much, all right, that he has me saying in text that our agreement is any day after 6. And I was like, fine, if that's what it is, whatever. I didn't even consult the paperwork, and that, like, every day I think to myself, why didn't I do that? I promise you, I think of it every day, because it's one of the things that I know is essential in how he was able to win versus my court stuff, because a mediation document is not admissible in court unless it's court ordered. So, like, if we go into mediation and we're like, hey, this is mediation, we both sign off on it, and we don't take it to a judge, it's just word to word, and it's not admissible in the courtroom. The only reason it can be admitted in the courtroom is if I made it a court order. I did not, because I kept trusting that these little things here he would follow. You know what I'm saying? Like, there shouldn't be no problems. But no, he canceled all the time. He changed it all the time. Now, he changed it all the time, and he was changing it all the time because he had me on paper saying that this was our agreement, but it wasn't. Okay, I'm certain he used that in court, because the mediation document is not court admissible if it is not a court order, but the text messages are. Okay, so he's got me in text looking like I'm agreeing. He essentially got me to agree, and here's how he got me to agree. This is what the psychological was about it. Months earlier, we had a disagreement about when he was supposed to give me the money. He sent me a screenshot of our agreement. Okay, so when he comes back and he says this is our agreement, I have no reason to think that he would lie about it, because he himself had already screenshotted. This is what the dark psychology type stuff is. Okay, where, okay, because he already gave me proof of what it says, he must be telling the truth now, but he wasn't. Okay. Oh, shit. I keep trying to tap it like it's a phone, but it's not. So, I'm certain he used that in court. Now, throughout this, New York and Jeremiah's dad both experienced me calling excessively while we were dating. Okay. I didn't behave that way with Natanya's dad while we were dating, ever, because he was polite. Of all the men that I ever dated, like, he was the most polite. Like, he would take you out, he would feed you with this, here, oh, my little princess, blah blah blah, right? He was very focused. He had a very different focus of deviance. He wasn't the kind of guy that was ghosting. You know what I'm saying? Like, him, he didn't treat me like that. Now, Jeremiah's dad, New York, they definitely were ghosters. Okay. And so you would be calling them over and over again, like, bro, what's up? What's up? What's up? You told me you know, and that didn't happen often with Jeremiah's dad either, because we lived together a lot of times. Like, we lived together like a total of 3 out of 5 years that we were fucking. So anyways, moving on. After having Natanya, he made his boundary incredibly rigid. He would he would say that calling him twice was harassment. Okay, but he would call me multiple times, and most of the time, if I called him more than once, it was because, like, when you're used to calling certain people, there's certain people I don't leave voicemails for, right? There's no reason to. I know I'm going to talk to them soon, so I'll call and I'll just hang up. So with him, sometimes I would forget that I'm calling my baby dad. I was like, oh shit, I hang up, and I would leave a voicemail. I would call back and leave a voicemail, and he would tell me this was harassment. I was like, bro, I apologize. I called once, but I forgot to leave a voicemail, so I called again, and he was like trying to make it seem. I mean, the boundary was so fucking rigid. I would understand if I called you like 5-6 times, but I called you twice. Once I accidentally hung up, I called again, and he would make it seem like I'm just overriding his boundaries by this behavior. Only one time in the history of our relationship, okay, of being parents together, knowing each other, did I ever blow up his phone. And this was actually right before I kind of snapped. All right. So, I called him 80 times. Why? Because it was the day that I got my Ford Escape. I was picking up Natanya with my aunt, and I told her I'm gonna call him real quick and make sure he's at the house so we can drop the car off, because I'm supposed to be somewhere. I had to go get the car, and the car place closed at a certain time. So I kept calling. He never answered. I get up to the house. Nobody answers. So I leave, we go get my car, and I'm calling because now I had to take her with me. Okay. Calling, no answer, and calling. And it was like a serious calling, because it was his day. Calling 80 times. He was supposed to pick her up, but left a note on my door. Now, remember, I stopped by my house to see if he was there, right? So when I get back in my new car, I see that there's a sign. He wrote on the fucking thing, I was here from 5:50 to 6:10, and we know that's a fucking lie, because I stopped here at 6 because I had to be somewhere else, and I was trying to make sure that you wouldn't leave, because last time I came at 6, you left. So, he said either was there from 5:50 to 6:15 or 6:10, 6:15, something like that. And I was calling at 5:50, 6:50, in between 5:50 and 6:15. I called you 80 times in between that time. So now I see that little fucking note on my door. I know you're fucking playing with me, but you had already been playing with me. I know y'all motherfuckers is playing with me. Y'all motherfuckers gonna stop fucking playing with me. You're gonna stop fucking playing with me and my kids. So that's that day. I actually mentioned this in the reactive abuse video, because this was reactive abuse. This man was literally driving me nuts. Okay. The other little tactics that he would do would be like, coming at 6:13. He's not technically late. Coming at 6:13, coming at 6:18, coming at 6:20, 6:10. And then the day that I'm asking and begging him to come on time. Please come on time. Please come on time. Please come on time. Look, I know you're at work. I know you're doing this. Please come on time, because I'm trying to I only got a 3-hour window. You know what I'm saying? So you're taking away from my time every time that you're late. And the one time that I was not there at 6 o'clock just happened to be the day that he was there at 6 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? That type of stuff. But again, this is not really about him. It's about me. But this is how I got myself into this shit. I trapped myself with him by accident. The reason that this particular thing is being brought up because it was this particular incident happened in the react abuse video when I said I knocked on his window and I put my hand through it because I had already been trying to contact him before 6 o'clock. He would not answer the phone. It was well after 6 o'clock. He still hadn't answered the phone or called me back. And then I get to his house and I get to my house and I see there's a note on my door. So then I go to his house. I'm enraged. Bro, just answer the fucking door. Damn it. The fuck. So this is also the same incident and the same event when the officer asked why I didn't want to spend time with my child when I had her for 2 straight weeks. So he had covered all bases to make it look like I was not cooperating. And I now see how he used all of this to make it look like I was the problem. But this was his entire plan from the start. When she was 6 months old, he showed me an article with no context of a woman being charged for prostituting her daughter. I told him it was terrible. I just looked at it. He didn't ever say anything. He just sat there and he stared and he watched my reaction. And I'm looking at it and I'm looking at it. And what did you show me this for? This is absolutely terrible. You know what I'm saying? And I looked over at Natanya and that was it, because that's not anything pertinent to me, but really sad. You know what I'm saying? So he strategically would have the books, The Art of War and Dark Psychology, in my view. Okay. And that's when I realized at some point, because, and I realized this well before we went down. Okay. But there wasn't anything I could do to keep it from going down. I would try my best to like cooperate and be kind and be polite, but I was getting, he wasn't the only one doing stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Jeremiah's dad was doing this. Aaron's dad was doing this. So it was very hard for me to like keep my cool. But I saw it well before, because I myself decided to read The Art of War. And so when I read The Art of War, the one thing that stuck out and made me realize exactly what his plan was the fact that it says to show them what to be afraid of, and they will walk right into it, essentially. That's not the exact words, but that's essentially what the idea is. He showed me this article of a woman being charged with prostituting her daughter. He wanted me to be afraid of it. And in being afraid of it, I was trying my best to get like a stable, get a partner, get friends. I was trying really hard, and the harder I was trying, he was trying harder to destroy all of it. You know what I'm saying? And he led me right into a path where it looks like I'm doing stuff like that, but I wasn't, because I was dating so much and trying to find a partner and stuff like that, and putting myself out there. It definitely looked like I was irresponsible, or that my child was like in danger. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I realized it, but there's nothing that I could do to stop it, because there was a lot of things that I was dealing with. We're all dealing with our own things. That was one thing. I'm still trying to figure out why I have this trigger. I'm literally still trying to figure out why I have this trigger. I'm trying to date G. I'm trying to do all this other stuff while all this is going on, but he was trying to set me up to look like I was selling Natanya, and my inability to have boundaries, my willingness to try and make things right, and not having the right definition of what accountability is, because I was taking accountability by taking care of that child in the first place. It all looked like I was being a baby bitter mama, and that I trapped him when I was the one who was trapped. I never contacted that lady. Okay, I knew of her existence since 2016, but I never looked her up until 2018. I looked at her Facebook. She seemed decent. Natanya never complained about her, so I never had anything to say to her. Like I never messaged her on Messenger or anything. In fact, I looked at her and blocked her. And I found her off my baby daddy's page. I blocked them both, and then just went on with my life. And that was in 2018. That was 2 years after I found out about her. okay? And I have the screenshot because remember, there was a point where I got so excited about hearing something and defending myself, and not really defending myself. Um, I'm okay with, oh, you heard about that? Yeah, that did happen, except for I had the wrong facts about it. I said that it happened in 2014. It actually happened in 2016, where I told him that I would contact her, and I didn't even have her contact information. It was a complete bluff in order to get him to like leave me the fuck alone. Because you're the one that came to me asking me if I wanted to have sex again, and then I couldn't get you in the room sometimes. You came when you wanted. It was still that same shit. So, stop playing with me. You're not going to play with me anymore. I'm going to tell her that we're fucking, and I'm going to tell her I have herpes too. I'm going to tell her. But I didn't have her contact information, and I didn't even look it up. You know what I'm saying? I at least knew her name, and I never looked her up. I didn't look at her until 2018, and that is the truth. Okay? I didn't do that. I've never contacted her. Ever. I've never spoken to her once, ever. I've never spoken to Natanya and like asked Natanya about her or anything, ever. Anything that was ever said about her came out of Natanya's mouth, and I would be like, oh, that's so great, that's so nice, Miss oh, that's so good. That's all I could say. I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, oh, don't talk to her. No. That's so good. That's good. I'm glad that you have somebody that loves you. So I never had anything to say to her. But he would do things like pick Natanya up early and deliberately then tell me he's picking her up late. Or excuse me, tell me he's picking her up early and then deliberately pick her up late. Okay? So when they would pull up together, it looks like I'm upset about her when really he was pulling these strings. So I really never cared. And it's funny because Jeremiah's dad would do the same thing. They would both back into my driveway so I can't see the women. And it's like, I don't care about that. Just give me my kid or take my kid, whichever one, right? I also did not tell Aaron's dad about herpes. This is so fucking long. Oh my God. I went so much further into detail than what's written on here. That is why it's taking so long. I apologize. I didn't realize how long this shit was. I apologize. Okay, so I did not tell Aaron's dad that I had herpes until our second time together. I think both Aaron and Natanya's dad already had it though. Okay, those are not excuses. I'm just noting how they acted much differently than other men about it. They didn't ask questions. They did not change what type of sexual acts they wanted to do or anything like that. They stayed on course. And there was something that I saw on Aaron. Aaron's dad, and there's something that I saw on Natanya's dad. I'm pretty sure they had it already, but again, this is not the signs of it is not what caused me not to tell them, though. No matter the mind state, intentions, I do understand that my behavior is inexcusable. And though Fode, Aaron's dad, though he has told me that Aaron is my punishment for an incident that happened, like when I sucked that guy's dick, right? We're gonna get into that really quick because there's an important thing missing there too. But he convinced me to take out my birth control in order to have Aaron, and then like as soon as I got pregnant, he left. But oftentimes I'll talk about it, but oftentimes I just think it's karma because I said that I was on birth control and I wasn't, right? So, again, the guy that disrupted that situation, right? He spent 5 years saying he wasn't interested in me. He was not going to sleep with me. He doesn't want me. So that's why he was at my house. But I need to mention him. I'm going to call him Amaha. I later discovered that Amaha and Green had ties. So too many people are linked. It's just, you understand, there's too many people that are linked here. So we've discussed the man of the hour and what I did to the man of the hour, but I did not discuss the tattoo artist that did my hand tats, my little lady, and my G thing tat. Okay, we fucked twice, and I did not tell him. When it comes to my family, okay, I smacked my youngest cousin in the face when she said she was going to Beaumont, Texas, which was 20 miles away from the most racist town in the entire country, called Vidor, Texas, to meet a white man that she met in a chat room. I've also argued with her mother. I've never called her out of her name or anything though. Once over my cousin's car because we funded the gas and I really needed her not to take the car because we were low on funds and had other appointments lined up. We did come to a compromise there. And then we argued about this emotional incest stuff. Like I said, just recently, I had somebody leave a comment on a reply or reply on a comment that and said that the exact same words that my aunt said in this argument. So apparently we're still arguing. I mean, exact same words about, I saw this on Ropra, and you got to watch out for those unaccredited people. But they are accredited, they are PhDs. Anyways. So, in regards to my cousin's cars, I drove one of her cars when I was 19 and I forgot that it needed oil constantly. Like, it drank oil, like it had a leak or something. So the car broke down permanently because I did not add any oil, and she lost the car and then she lost the other car due to a title loan, which has been brought up as well. She was short $150 because I was short on rent. I made the poor choice of exhausting my money with the expectation of receiving money from my father and sister from a loan that I had given them for them to move. Okay. So I could have and should have saved $150, but I was being overly trusting of people who repeatedly played with my money over the years. The incident is what caused me to start paying it from my account directly because I didn't know that she was paying a late fee every month because her paycheck didn't always align. I have said, multiple times that I slept with her child's father. What I dislike about this admission, this is what really bothers me about this admission. My lips are dry as hell. They've been this whole time. Like, I'm always sitting in front of a fan. So, what I dislike about this admission is that I have now, I've stated that I was manipulated, and I never really went into details. I just owned it because at the time, okay, again, we are on the back side of this shit, right? So you could see how I was manipulated, but back then I didn't understand that, so I just owned it. So by me owning it, I looked like I was being malicious when I was not. I didn't have, I to this day, I still don't got a backbone to get, I wanted to have sex with condoms and I still couldn't tell the dude no. So I didn't have any more backbone then. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have any more backbone then. And I'm looked at as being malicious, and my sisters were touched. And when they speak on it, and the thing about my sisters too is that they could always speak on anything that happened to them, and they were always believed. They were never called fast. They were never called anything. I'm always called fast, and I'm always called manipulative, and I'm always called this stuff. And I was just as much a victim. My dad called and talked shit to him and all that stuff, and I hid it, and I felt shame because I didn't understand, from the beginning. Anytime any manipulation, any type of assault, any type of thing happened, I was just fast. I was just promiscuous. I was just manipulative. I was all these things. So naturally, I'm hiding these things because that's all I've ever been. I've never been able to be anything else, and I knew that I wasn't this stuff. Yes, I'm describing a behavior issue. I'm showing you here that I have no backbone, that I have dealt with people knowing my status, okay?
Ooh, there's a stink bug. So anyway, so when I told on myself and I told her about it, I just owned it. I never did say that I was manipulated. That's never anything that I ever talked about. It doesn't matter. When Natanya was a baby, she dropped a can of beans on her laptop, and I offered to pay for it. But when she said it was, but she said it was actually her son's fault because she had taken it without, or he had taken it without permission, and it shouldn't have been on the floor. Um, I don't think she ever bought a new one though, and I do think that it disrupted her schooling. Looking back, I should have helped her pay for that. But when I left her house in 2020, I had acknowledged, apologized, and taken accountability in all areas within my relationship with her. And these are things that were going on as we were going. So, like, I slept with her child's father. Though it took me many years to tell her, I did tell her, and it was well before 2020. You know what I'm saying? So when I left her house, I did not think that we were on any bad terms. Because she and I spent so much time together, she did experience things that she would be upset about, that she should be upset about with me. Okay. However, it's always intentions, and I never intended to harm her. And that's why I was able to apologize to her. Realize, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm so sorry. Like, I've apologized to her so many times, but that one last final apology, just making sure that I tie all things into it. Like, she was still upset with me. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I did not know. And a lot of it, when I'm sitting here and I'm saying, like, well, he manipulated me into sleeping with him. She don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. She's not mad at my sisters for having been touched. That's that example of, that's what I'm talking about like the with the toxic accountability type stuff, you know. Inconsistent standards, like the accountability is a moving target. I didn't mean to use that way. What I'm saying is, I took accountability by apologizing, but essentially I was just as much a victim as my sisters were. And so it then they would have to take accountability as well for being manipulated and touched, is what I'm saying there. But anyways, I've been honest about it from the beginning of my channel. But then it's the way they use the certain things that I did in order to make it look like I had a trend of doing it, when they hide and they conceal the other things that they do. Right. So, in her example, later on in life, I do go on to sleep with someone else that she was sleeping with, but the entire time they knew each other, which at this point was almost 15 years, the entire time they knew each other, they held that they had not slept together. But I had heard from another family member that she believed that they were, and then I heard it straight from the horse's mouth from him that they were. So at this point, I've been dealing with him for a number of years, off and on, and now it looks like I sleep with all your people. When you told me you weren't sleeping, if y'all was just friends, there shouldn't have been no issue, especially because I only had people like that were related to y'all, or like random people I met off the internet. That's how I got the majority of the people that I dealt with, you know. I met mine at high school, and then I had two from the internet and just random little experiences. And then, I had the guy, I just told you about the guy on the internet now, that I met when I was living with my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. I didn't really have a lot of interactions with people. So a lot of the people I did meet were through you. But it was like you were trying to make it seem as if I had this trend of sleeping with the people you were sleeping with, when in fact I did not.
you told me you didn't sleep with him. You know what I'm saying? So then, like I said, um, there are no excuses, right? So me saying I didn't mean to hurt her, my intentions weren't to get pregnant, that doesn't excuse the fact that I lied or carried out any type of deceit. I'm aware of that. I'm fine of that. I'm just reminding you that my intentions were never that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not coming from a malicious point. I truly was just genuinely trying to be the best I could be, and the best wasn't very good. Wasn't very good. No, I will continue to say about the boundaries, because writing this out, I cried a little bit because, excuse me, step on my laptop. Okay. Um, when I was writing this out, I almost cried a few times. And one of those is just how I didn't know how to say no. And I still don't. Because, like, the last time I saw G was on my birthday this year, and he still didn't use a condom, and I wanted to. Like, I'm 37, and I still have not gained agency and sovereignty over my body yet. I mean, I will now. I am now, because I'm not, gonna deal with him anymore. But um, and I harassed the man of the hour. I don't know why that's not in there, but we talked about the man of the hour, and I did say that I harassed the man of the hour, so we're not gonna talk about that. But it's still, when it comes to, like, the the verbal and the texting harassment and stuff like that, when it comes to that, it is still confined to those guys. Like, it's not some great big, every dude that ever dealt with me had, like, all of, every single time I talk to a guy, I'm blowing them up and doing all this shit. Now, there was a guy, right before I left for Maryland, there was a guy, and he knew I had it and everything, and there's people in between this that knew I had it too. And that's the thing. We're only talking about what I did wrong here. But it's important, because I realize, without telling you what I did wrong, um, now, there is no I realize without telling you what I did wrong. I mean, there is a little bit, but really, I'm just at the point where I need to tell you. I can't hold on for it for much longer. If I've done this whole channel and I've told you some aspects and perspectives of it without telling you the aspects and perspectives of things I did to others, well, then it's kind of null and void. And I am a truthful individual. The thing is, these individuals know the truth, but they're not telling you the whole truth about the things they did to me. You know what I'm saying? They know the truth. That's why they told you the truth, and I held off on telling the truth about it. Why? Because I was dealing with the toxic accountability side of it. The, having the finger pointed and being blamed and being punished. None of these people were punished. Okay? Asking you to take care of your child is not punishment. I don't have any money, Ashley. I don't have any money. Ashley, I don't have any money. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I did do something wrong here. And it's always the same thing. I'm trying my best to take accountability. Well, I was the one that got pregnant. I was the one that said, that I was on birth control, but you were the one that wanted unprotected sex. I mean, we were both the ones that wanted unprotected. Both of us wanted it. And what you wanted to do is you wanted to pull out and leave me hanging with no sexual gratification and just use me like a fucking masturbation device. That's what you wanted to do. Okay? In that, not being able to assert myself, I found a deceptive way to try to achieve that and fucked myself in the process by getting pregnant. Bro, do you know how much I cried while I was pregnant with that little girl? All I've ever received when I do something wrong is shaming and punishment, lack of positive reinforcement, blame and finger pointing, excessive control, and inconsistent standards, creating fear and defensiveness. So I've spent a lot of time being fearful and defensive about things that I've done that you know that I've done because I told you. So now, our last little bit, because I was still talking about my family there, but I got kind of sidetracked. I've never been on a thing for 2 hours before. This is uncomfortable. Because nobody watches my videos as it is. I highly doubt someone's about to sit here and watch a 120-minute video. So, oh, your battery is running low. All right. So these last few things about my family here, and we can get out of the way. Yeah, so when I left my cousin's house, I thought we were on good terms. So that's why I was it's not when my mom said that she has things she could be mad at me about. The reason I felt that she didn't have anything to be mad at me about is because like I had given her cash, I had apologized, I had actively been working towards being more trustworthy, and had came a very long way from that first time when I rode her car and broke it down. You know what I'm saying? And I was 19 years old. You know what I'm saying? So at 29, 30, 31 years old, and actually when she had said this to me, I was about 35. It's been about 2 years now. And it's like, okay, I had apologized for everything. You know, so I don't know, like when me and her split up, it was because I believed that she was talking shit about me. I know that she was talking shit about me, you know what I'm saying? And I removed myself because I felt that I was in danger. And I told her how I felt, but ultimately there are things that they had done and they had been doing. And so that's why I was confused. It's not a denial that I never did anything to her. It's just that she told me we were cool, and I had put forth a genuine effort to make things up with her throughout life. I just had my own life that never got off the ground. I argued with my mom regularly. I've called her a bitch 5 or 6 times. Okay. I wrote my name on the Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance checks that were written to my dad, however, designated to myself and sister to pay bills. Okay. Medical bills. And I want to add a side note. When I initially mentioned this, I had said that our mother loaned money to our sister's dental work. That was also included in this amount. Though the money was recouped by my father when he claimed my children on taxes, he never paid any of those bills that were covered under insurance. So I paid the bills with that money as I was supposed to. He took it back from me. Okay, even though he wasn't entitled to it, I felt like, I had stolen, but I hadn't, because I actually did exactly what I was supposed to do. They sent up the checks. The only check that didn't go to anybody was the one for my sister. I kept that and I bought newborn stuff for my daughter. But once he got those checks, okay, once he got taxes, he claimed my children on his taxes. He chose to reimburse himself, even though he didn't lose any money. He didn't lose anything. So because it was written to him, he thinks he lost something, but it's literally the policy that it's supposed to go to the medical bills. I put it where it's supposed to go, with the exception of one check. He took all the money back. He's actually the one who owes my mother for the debt. that she's been hounding my sister about. I just wanted to mention that in case you forgot, because this is what you're not understanding. They do this stuff. They put us in these little things where it makes it seem like, so hold on. She said that she wasn't going to let you move in with her because you hadn't paid her back for this dental bill. Okay. And so she is using something that I'm very sure that she knows that he should have paid for, and that it was covered. It was covered under insurance. He got the insurance money. Well, I got the insurance money. I took it. But when he got it back, he still had an obligation to pay yours. And had I not taken it, he wouldn't have paid mine. And even if I didn't pay it, he still would have taken my money somehow, some way, because that's how they do stuff. Oh my God. Oh, I'm going to lose the storage unit that he was already paying for before I put anything in there. And now I got to pay for the whole the storage unit. And now I owe mom. I have to borrow money from mom to get him to pay for the storage unit. And now I owe mom, and he don't owe nothing on his storage unit that he already had before I put anything in it. What? Do you see what they're doing to you and me? And it's okay. This video really wasn't, the reason this video was so long is because I still chose to include some of the things that were going on at the time. But this video is more about me and the things that I've done, because I can do worse things than that. Okay. And lastly, even though this isn't, it was initially, it was kind of like in chronological order, and then suddenly somehow it got out. My brother asked me to be in his wedding. I asked my dad for the money for the bridesmaid's dress, and then I paid my electric bill, and I did not be in my brother's wedding. And, again, lying, deceit, it is abuse. All right. We now understand and know that lying and things like that are abuse, right? I think everybody understands that now. At first, and I'm not saying I didn't know, okay? But like, for instance, I got in a disagreement with someone on Stitch or whatever that new one from Instagram is. And they were saying it's just a lie. It's not just a lie. It's not. Like, come on, lying isn't that serious. Y'all are trying to equate lying. Whatever they said, they were trying to justify that lies were not abusive. And I said that they were. And even in having that conversation, I have full understanding that I have lied and I have been a liar. This here is definitely a trend of deceit. It's specific to dealing with men. Okay. Now, these men were not being any more truthful to me than I was to them. I think that's where I'm having the issue. These men were not any more truthful to me than I was to them. Yet you want to call me a hoe and hold me accountable. Where's your accountability for lying to me and not telling me you had a girlfriend? Where's your accountability for lying to me and telling me that I didn't need to be ashamed of a rape and that you still want to date me? Where's your accountability for that? Because the finger has constantly been pointed at me, I lived in a state of fear of being truthful about this, because who the fuck is going to believe that I didn't have any negative intentions to anybody when doing all this behavior? I asked, I didn't ask her yet, because this conversation has been going on for like a couple weeks now with my therapist. Right? Because personally, I still believe I'm a good person despite these mistakes here. And anybody can choose to decide if they're a good person or not. Like, just, are you trying to learn? Are you trying? I think somebody said, are you willing to be taught? That one, yeah. I mean, because learning is being taught. People are trying, you can only learn by being taught by others, by yourself. If you're willing to learn, then you're willing to be taught. In my opinion. I mean, that makes sense to me. I think it would be more specific of, are you willing to be taught by somebody that's not like you? You know what I'm saying? Because Sometimes, you know, you don't like the teacher. You know what I'm saying? You don't like who's bringing the message. So I can see where there would be an issue of accepting the information, but I'm willing to accept the information. In every single thing, I'm trying to apply it. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying. I am. You know, I am. It's not every day, but this has been 20 years of consistent work. I was 15 the first time that I was ever placed in therapy. And though I didn't always, the things that I was doing and what I was applying wasn't working because I wasn't understanding the boundaries. Oh, I don't see why that's so, you know, my therapist had said something about putting him on child support, and I had said I'm trying to be the best parent that I can be. And I thought that not stressing the other parent out was the solution, when actually just putting him on child support was the solution. It was, whether I lied or not, because my lie wasn't with the intention of gaining a child. We both chose. Whether you believed believed me or not, you yourself, even with the information that I provided, you said you don't trust birth control. So why would you ever, you claim that somebody else got pregnant on birth control. So you know that even if I was on birth control, it could fail. But I told you the truth because I didn't like I didn't like being a liar. And even then, not telling the internet the truth doesn't make me a liar, because he knows the truth. He knows he raped me. He knows that he was doing dark psychology tricks to get me into a vulnerable position where I would try to have a child. He knew it. He also knew that I was disabled and that I wasn't well. He chose the correct target in order to do what it was he wanted, which was to secure a child. So, what is the name of this video? That is the full list. No, it's not. There's one more person. I might have skipped because I kept losing my spot. Hold on. When I was pregnant with Aaron, I was carrying on with a man. And remember, yeah. I skipped it somewhere in here. I had told you guys I said I wasn't going to sleep with any more married men, but I still did. And when I did it is when I was pregnant with Aaron, and I went and I met this man, and I slept with him several times throughout my pregnancy, and he was really sweet to me. He was really nice to me, but I never told him that I had herpes. He does know now, though. He was actually part of the original group, but he found out. He didn't tell me he had it or anything, but he found out because he's African. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying about this the African thing. Again, I'm not saying that African people are bad when I keep bringing up the African people. Okay, and when I say African, we're speaking on the terms of the continent. He is not from the same place, but he was from the North End, and they have a very tight community out there. So we all have our problems, and we all have things that we have to acknowledge. Those are the things that I had to acknowledge, that I actually had no problem with acknowledging, because I acknowledged it to those people. I really just gave you more detail on exactly how those incidents happened. But back to what I was saying about my therapist. We've been going through this for a while with my therapist, because I'm still struggling with, well, how much nature versus nurture. Because my personal opinion is that everything that I just described to you was a result of the environment. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it's my nature, but I haven't really had enough time outside of the environment to really show what my nature is. But at what point is this is your nature, this is who you are, you're an evil person. What was your intentions behind it? Even if your intentions aren't bad, at some point this does have to be evil, right? At what point does that what point am I allowed to draw that line and just say I'm evil? Because I don't think that I am. I loved my daughter very much, and there was a lot that was said. Like, I would get upset about my daughter sometimes, like any other parent. In therapy, when I was in Maryland in therapy, I did actually acknowledge that I had been physically violent with the children, and that the fact that I was driving was because of my concern about being like so sensitive to my triggers. Now, one thing I will say is that over time, I have experienced less triggers um, with that. I said that I kicked her and pulled her hair because I did. Um, and I think what kept me from being honest further, like when I got back here and I was here, was just the fact that, okay, in 2020, I went to the thing. 2 years went by and nothing happened and nobody helped me, and I'm still experiencing issues and still, excuse me, building up, rebuilding from the things that happened. They vandalized my car, took my car, all this stuff. And it's like, it was a lot. It was too much, but I still was able to repair with Aaron. It's not like anything ever happened with Aaron and he never got apologized to, and that's just what you deserve. And it's been said at one point, man, you needed that, right? But then once I'm calm and everything like that, we come back and it's like, hey, you are an excellent child that never deserved that. Even if you weren't an excellent child, you don't deserve that. I mean, like, I do the repair and stuff. And like I said, I didn't start this way. Like, parenting, I did not start out like beating my children, or it's not beating. It's usually like one or two actions that just turn into way more than it should be. Like I said, I pulled my daughter's hair, but that's all I did in that instance. You know what I'm saying? But it was still not appropriate. Um, so like when I would speak about Natanya, sometimes I would speak with a lot of vitriol, not because I disliked her. I was just at the point of stress. Like when I look at my child, my children, all of them, I love them very much, and I'm always saddened. Um, Excuse me. I done already cried on here today, but I'm always saddened by the fact that I've never been able to like really be their mom, and like they've ever really been able to see me, because they've only ever seen me stressed. They've only ever seen me like upset. Um, Aaron sometimes thinks I don't want to spend time with him, even though like I spend enough time with him. I do. His therapist agreed that I do. Okay, I spend enough time with him, but um, sorry, all right, okay, that's enough. Or like his stemming, the humming, and it bothers me, because of what I'm dealing with. These things, and so many things, right? So I'm always disappointed and saddened that they didn't really get to see me. I feel like Natanya really loves me and knows me, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, she still, even having not seen me in many years, she always says she wants to be like me. That's very flattering because I think I'm a terrible person. This is what we're trying to work on in therapy, that I'm not a terrible person, and that everything that happened is to be expected, due to the environment, the brainwashing, the nurture. But I myself personally will be like, oh my God, at one point, what point does the nature versus the nurture no longer be an option? When is it just my nature? Um, I don't think that it's my nature.
I don't think that I'm possessed or anything like that. Like when I sit and I look at how these men have treated me, that's another thing, Gerald. Hey, if y'all ever made it to this far, okay? Um there was one time I told you that this has never happened to me, and it's the truth because every situation is different. When I came to you, I genuinely was just coming to have somewhere to hang out because I was stuck in my cousin's house with 5 people, not including that was just the adults. Well, it was 4 adults. It was my cousin, her boyfriend at the time, who is now was I don't know if it's her husband. So I don't know what your relationship status is, but at the time he was your boyfriend, and then he became your husband. Um, my aunt and myself, and her 2 kids, my 2 kids. That's a lot of people. That's 8 people. So I was just trying to find somewhere to hang out. When you offered, I took it. You know, like it was very innocent. I told you I didn't want to have sex. If you would have told me you wanted to have sex, I definitely would have told you because we already had a history. I already had a history. I already knew that had affected somebody that was 19 years old. He already had a child, but he was a 19-year-old boy, and it's very possible that he is out there right now with it. I was 25. So I was only 4 years old. He told me he was 21. So I was only 4 years older. I thought that was not too bad of an age gap. Um, but I already knew in the back of my mind that I had harmed somebody who was like 19 years old. I already knew that I had possibly harmed this other dude. And um, having been left with Aaron and everything, like I wanted to do things the right way. I genuinely did. And I attempted to, and I still failed, you know? But then I thought that you were giving me the opportunity to make it right, and I tried to make it right, but we both were wrong in what accountability is. So now that I have you know, the proper definition for what accountability is, I'm able to sit here and tell you all my infractions. Those are it. If anybody has any more, I mean, bring them on. But I've been very much an open book from day one that I was not perfect. Bringing out some more information, especially the one about how Natanya was conceived, very important because from the very beginning, though, that's what he wanted, and he's putting it on me when I'm actually just a person that is easily and susceptible to psychological uh, conditioning. You know, it's probably best that I stay away from people because I'm very suggestive. And I think that can be displayed because if I've watched like a certain person for a long time, I'll pick up their lingo for like a half a day before I realize, like, oh, that's because I've been watching that thing. Very impressionable, and it's because of this psychological abuse that I've experienced for a long period of time. Also, I want you to note that all my conflicts, like I'm the only time I argued with another cousin, but that was on the internet, and that was like in 2020. That's the only argument I've ever had with her since I was a child. You know what I'm saying? My sisters, we've argued. I haven't placed my hands on them. Like, I haven't physically hit them or anything like that since I was a child. Like, when I became an adult, it wasn't anything that I needed to hit them for. Even though we argued a lot. And a lot of their arguments were caused by them, though, in my opinion. You know. Then we have, I need to change my patch. I can feel the cigarette craving coming. But I wanted to know that it seems like all my conflict happens to be with the family members of the cousin that was molested. Because whatever goes on behind the scenes, I am enemy to you and your family because I know the truth. They had to turn you against me because I know the truth about what they did. to your brother. Okay. So I just want to note that, like, the most confrontations happen with them. And the one with the first one though, it wasn't really an argument. It was, but I was just, no, you can't do that. You can't. And I thought she was delusional, so I smacked her. Try to wake her up, but I shouldn't have put my hands on her. It was one single slap, and it was out of care and concern, not like we're aggressive and we're fighting. You know what I mean? Yeah. But all I'm saying is there's a distinct difference. I wasn't arguing with her. We weren't arguing. She and I were not in an argument. I was shocked by what I was hearing, and I smacked her like, wake up. You can't do this. It does not make it right. Putting hands on people does not make it right. I'm just letting you know it wasn't coming from a place of aggression. Like, I hate you. I want you to die. I want you to be harmed type stuff. So this was one of the longest videos I've ever done on this channel. Unfortunately, didn't have like a lot of viewers on it. So chances are you won't know, but it's okay. I'm okay. It's out there for whoever needs to see it. And maybe, because again, this all boils down to toxic accountability, right? Maybe me doing this long ass video telling you everything I've ever done wrong will encourage you to tell the truth about the things you do wrong, because we've all done them. We are not all presented with the same opportunity for wrongdoing. I'll put it like that. A lot of us are not always given the same opportunity for wrongdoing. So some of you will sit there, and the only thing that you need to admit is that you're judging. You know what I mean? Some of us are not afforded that great opportunity to do right and wrong. Your day to day is the majority of basic, easy decisions. And so a lot of decisions were presented to me, and I made the wrong decision a lot of times. And I think a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us have closeted some of the things we've done. We tried to cover them up and do the things that we do because we are in an environment that breeds fear of speaking up and speaking the truth. Okay. This is what this last 6 months has done for me. Okay. And when it comes to Gerald, what I was trying to say is, I've told you that I never did it before, and I didn't in that context. That's what I mean when I say I never did it before. The context was different. The situations were different every single time. It's presented differently. And me, I just couldn't gauge the situations properly. Or I could. For like instance, the guy with the girl coming, let's come to like 2020 when there was a guy talking to me in my inbox in Instagram, right? This guy approached me. Okay, he approached me and propositioned me and knew that I knew they had a girl, right? In that moment, because I had already experienced what I did, like I was embarrassed that I had fucked a 19-year-old who lied about his age. And in that situation, there was no forcing or anything. I just agreed to be with him. He really thought I was pretty and stuff, and I agreed to do it. With no remorse. After this is directly after this incident with these men. I do continue to note that my mental state was not very good. Okay, my mental state was not very good. It does not mean that I did not know the difference between right and wrong. I simply did not have the capacity to choose. My mind state was just gone, right? And I can distinctly remember feeling offended that this dude with this girl had approached me. Who do you think? And this is the realization of the inner teenager too, you know? It's just the inner teenager I see has been running this show for a long time. Who the fuck do you think I am? Is that what you think of me? Well, then we'll show you. And it went on like that for some time, it looks like, you know? Or I'd come to when I would try to do the right thing, I would try to fix it, but it's too late. So these are my confessions of abuse, of deceit, of physical violence, which has also I said my family, but I didn't address my son. Well, Aaron has experienced more abuse than any child that I've ever had, because not because he's been with me longer, um, but because we don't have a car. Not having a car has affected how often I strike. When I was with the kids together, we drove around a lot. We drove around a lot because I was highly reactive, and I was aware that I was highly reactive. I've always been aware that I'm highly reactive. You think, oh, just take a walk, but I can't walk that long. I've had an injury for some time now, you know, and now we walk more and we do more, and it's lessening. It is lessening. Um, we didn't walk at all last week, in case anybody's like, you didn't walk last week, because I know I'm under a microscope. That's the thing. I'll say I'm doing something, and then when I stop doing it, now it's I'm not consistent, or I'm not doing it, or whatever, when it is a process and I am still consistent and constantly trying. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't walk last week, but we had, you know, weeks before that, we were walking every week. Um, Dang, I lost my train of thought because I was talking about being under the microscope. When I had my car, my kids were safe because I knew I was reactive. And when I had the car and I was driving around, that was what I would do to protect them. But then as soon as we got stuck in the house, that's when it. My God, I've talked so long that my phone is low and my laptop is low. But just the last thing that I was saying is that the reason that abuse with Aaron increased is because I don't have a car. In those tense moments, in those tense times, we would hop in the car because that was my mode of meditation. That was my mode of, relaxation. That was the way that was like my primary way of unwinding, you know. driving to random, not random, but driving to, yeah, you saw me that. Saw, driving to parks and doing stuff like that. We have a park over here. It has nothing that he's interested in, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we can run around, but I'm talking about Black Lake Park or Slate Run, places that I really enjoyed back in childhood. So that increased with that. Um, I have never had a problem with being honest about that with you, with my family. Um, but where that's why I would like ask for help. Because the stress, the tension, the shit like that, they just didn't get it. They try to make it seem like I'm just violent, and I'm not. My therapist has continued to try to reassure me, and it's like, but I did it so many times. How do you? I did it so many times. Yeah, those are the I didn't mention the kids in here, but I've mentioned them throughout the channel and the incidents that I had with them. That doesn't mean that, even with me being this way, still doesn't mean that these people have any. You do not have any. Never mind. It's all right. It's okay. It's all right. That's all I have to say, y'all. Y'all have a good day.